What's happening, everybody? So I wanted to give a 75,000 mile update on my Ram quad cab. And you know, in my last video I put together a 65,000 mile update, and I got a ton of feedback from you guys, and I really do appreciate the interaction, by the way. So definitely post up comments and your experiences with this particular vehicle or any other trucks that you guys may be running around in. Definitely helps me out. But really, I wanted to give a 75,000 mile update, and so far, basically at 65,000 miles, I had put new brake pads on the truck and bled the brake system, and that was about the extent of any real maintenance that I've had to do with that vehicle, aside from, you know, typical oil changes and radiator flushes and things like that. To give you guys an update, I do use my truck as a daily driver, but it's not just my daily driver. It's my work truck, and it's really my office on wheels. So for me, I was looking for a vehicle that, you know, not only was a good looking truck, but it had to be reliable, and it had to knock down decent fuel mileage, because I put about 40,000 miles a year on the vehicle that I drive. So yeah, I want it to be nice, comfortable, but still be a bit economical, but it's got to be fun too. And I mean, hell, if you're spending that much time in something, you don't want to be bored to tears, right? So that's one of the main reasons why I went with the Dodge. But I know Ram, old habits. But at any rate, but I didn't just fall into the Dodge. I did a little bit of research on that vehicle, and it wasn't just through reading and, you know, anything like that. I work with a bunch of contractors. These guys use their trucks as their mobile office and their daily, and they beat the hell out of them. So when it came time to start looking for a replacement for my '09 F-150, yeah, I am a bit of a Mopar guy, but I also understand that that passion for Mopar, yeah, it doesn't really translate into a vehicle if that vehicle is going to be problematic. So in talking to the folks, a few things started to come up as being the norm. And those that had the Mopar products, they'd had them for a long time. Many of them have 200, 250,000 plus miles on them, and the whole reason why they still own it is because it just keeps going. Chevrolets and Fords tended to have more issues, and by the way, you know, you might think, well, you know, Ford sells a lot of trucks, Chevy sells a lot of trucks. Well, Ram does too. The thing is that over half of the contractors that I would have the conversations with, they were driving the Ram 1500. And those that had a Ford or a Chevy were starting to lean in that direction themselves. So again, you know, in firsthand, you know, conversations with guys about the vehicles that they own, you know, hearing some of the problems, like with the EcoBoost or with the Chevrolet transmissions, those are some of the things that started to back me away from those particular brands. Yeah, that, and I could get, to be honest, a lot more truck for the money with the Dodge. So it all seemed to kind of come together. So getting back to that 75,000 mile update, one viewer, and I apologize for not having the info right in front of me, but, you know, kind of did, you know, give me some good advice. Now, I should have given a bit more information on the truck. So, you know, really starting from nose to tail, you know, some issues that I've had along the way, or at least how things have held up over time. So, mods to the truck, by the way, excuse me, mods to the truck are, it's got a very mild tune on it. It's got 3.92 rear ratio gearing with a no-slip differential, and Flowmaster muffler, because I like the way it sounds, with the stock resonators. It's a 14 Ram, and it's got the 8-speed automatic. So basically, it's a good running truck. But anyway, getting back to the point, I really haven't had any problems with the engine. No oil burning at all. It burns zero oil. But keep in mind, I am religious with how I maintain my vehicles. I mean, to a fault almost. And so because of that, now I guess you wouldn't really expect it. I mean, it's always getting changed with synthetic motor oil, and it's changed out about every 6,000 miles, 7,000 miles. So that'll give you an idea as far as how I maintain the vehicle. Coolant system was flushed at 40,000 miles. And of course, when the rear diff was done, that was at about 30,000 miles. So again, just giving you guys a heads up with, how the vehicle's been maintained. Zero issues with the engine aside from the Hemi tick. And if I just had the time to do it, it's probably going to get a set of shorty headers thrown on it just because I'll be there anyway. I'm interested to see if any of those manifold bolts have just backed off or if they've actually broken. That should be fun to find out. And when I was doing the brakes, I was taking a look at it. It's going to be pretty easy to swap those manifolds out. So I'm not really sweating the actual difficulty of that mod. So mod / repair work, maybe, I don't know. Let's see. As far as fit and finish, that was one of the questions. To be honest with you, the truck is a 14, so this is almost the middle of 2017. No real issues with fit and finish at all. In fact, it's not a whole lot different than when I picked the truck up. Some slight interior wear, but again, you can imagine I'm getting in and out of this thing quite a bit. Doesn't show any real wear to speak of. No holes in the seats or anything like that. So in that respect, it's holding up great. I do get a little bit of wind noise out of the passenger side window. That kind of started up around 35,000 miles, give or take, and haven't really bothered to mess with it too much. Usually I have the radio cranked up anyway, so even if I notice it, it's rare, or when I notice it, it's rare. Now, moving, I guess, well, let me stop right there again and say that fuel mileage, I average about 18.5 miles per gallon in mixed driving, and it does have a mild tune on it, so I am running premium fuel. And again, I haven't noticed any real change in that. It basically knocks down on the freeway about 22 miles per gallon, and in town, I don't know, maybe 16, 15. So, but since I do quite a bit of highway driving, it averages out to about 18.5. Some weeks I'll be more 18, some weeks more I'll be like 19.5. Just kind of depends on how I'm driving the thing. If I'm playing around in it, it's going to be lower. Which is fun to do, by the way, because the truck's got plenty of power, and with that 392 gear, does make it a lot of fun. But I want to get to one kind of semi-annoying trait about the truck. See, the truck does have a 4-link style rear suspension, much like a car, as opposed to having leaf springs. And because of that, in certain circumstances, you can get a little bit of wheel hop out of it. I've actually haven't looked into it yet, but I do believe I can get some urethane bushings for those lower control arms and for the upper control arms as well. So I'm debating on that a little bit just to kind of quell a little wheel hop. But about the only time I can really get it to do that is if I launch the truck too hard and it just spins the rear tires. I've actually got the launch down in that thing pretty good to where I can just kind of do a quick roll on and the thing dead hooks. So basically, if I get myself into that situation, I've screwed up driving. It's hard to say it's the truck's fault at that point. So, but in terms of load carrying capacity, I haven't really noticed any real difference between leaf spring trucks that I've owned and the coil spring truck that I have now. Typically, the weight that I carry is around 1,000 to 12 to 1,300 pounds. It's in pallets, not stacked up really high. So really, because of that, I'm guessing I have a pretty decent idea of how the load capacity really is in that truck. And it'll drag that kind of weight around, and you really don't really notice too much of a difference aside from it'll, lean back a little bit. But it's not very bad at all. I mean, not any different than, again, any leaf spring truck that I've owned. So there's that in terms of a driving experience. But, the truck that I have is the quad cab, and this is one of the things I wanted to chat about too. I bought the quad cab because I needed the longer bed, but really, or at least I thought I did, but I haven't really needed the longer bed too often. I think I could really get away better with the shorter bed with the crew cab. And if you're kicking the two trucks around and you're thinking about going with, either the quad cab or the crew cab, listen, unless you're carrying things that are, and consistently carrying things, I should say, that are longer than about 6 feet or thereabouts, I would probably recommend the crew cab over the quad cab. Number one, you get more interior space and you get a more usable interior space. I mean, let's be honest, that quad cab, it's really a little bit more of a, it's like a glorified extended cab. It's like having an extended cab with maybe a couple of inches more depth. That's about it. So if you are debating between the two, I would probably recommend that crew cab for the extra space if you don't need a longer bed. If you do need a longer bed, I live just fine with the quad cab, and I don't plan on trading that truck in anytime soon, specifically to have more interior room. But if you are carrying adults around on a regular basis, go with the quad cab because they're not going to be that comfortable. I'm sorry, go with the crew cab. They're not going to be that comfortable in the back of a quad. So aside from that, a set of tires. Oh, and I did want to talk a little bit about the brake wear. Not very much for 75,000 miles. There's a video that I've done, and I'll post a link to that description just so you can see the brake wear. Again, I do a lot of highway driving, so you know it doesn't really correlate real well with what normal real-world conditions are. I do drive the highway quite a bit, but brake wear was not very excessive. Rotors checked out fine, so far so good with that too. But that's kind of a wrap on this video. I hope that helped you guys out. If you guys are thinking about going in that direction, whether you're looking or in the Dodge direction or Ram, sorry, you know, the Ram versus the Chevy and Dodge, or Ram versus Chevy and Ford, definitely give that Dodge a look. Again, no real issues to report, and that's about as high a praise as you can give something that you got to rely on every single day. So that's a wrap for this one. Post up your comments. Adios.